things. We simply are, receptors of aspects. We live out aspects of the overall program. But it's the program doing all of that. The program is running your relationship. The program's running your relationship. It's one of those things, one of those very basic things that I teach in transit workshop. Let's say that you have the channel of being intimate. One of you's a 2, the other one's a 5. Now, one of the things to recognize about that is that you're going to have your best intimacy on second line days and on fifth line days. In other words, when the sun is in the second line or the sun is in the fifth line, sun, earth. That means 2 out of every 6 days, you can have harmonizing, resonating intimacy. And the other 4 days of that rave week, it's not going to be there in the same way. In other words, the program is running all of that. We all know that in our love relationships, that even when we're at a consistent level with our lover and things are basically working well, that there is still all this frequency transition that takes place in the way that you feel them, care about them, all of those. It's a program. Right now, Uranus is in 19. You got all these relationships all over the planet that are much more needy than they've ever been. They're all much more concerned about whether there's going to be enough food than they've ever been. And all of these relationships are under this pressure of the 19th gate. And depending on the line and how that connects to your profile, you're going to feel it according to that. It's like watching a transit. I have the 49.5, my design moon. Now, Uranus is in the 19th, so I've got definition to the emotional system, but it's a dissonance. Uranus is in the 6th line. I don't really feel it very much. In other words, it's not something that's really catching the attention. Remember the 19 flirts. It's not successfully flirting with my 5th line at the other side. But when that retrograde, or whenever, that goes into a 5th line, instantly there's going to be resonance. It's like waiting for a transit to come. This is one of the things that people do in design. They get caught up in that. They say, geez, I'm waiting for this transit. And they get into the transit and their first reaction is, hey, nothing's going on. Nothing's happening. And of course, what happens is that for every transit, depending on what you have there, you're going to only get basically 2 out of 6 days or whatever, whatever that happens to be. It's like the outer planet long-term transit. Pluto sits in the 9-3. And as long as Pluto is sitting in the 9-3, it's going to impact the deepest on 3rd line and 6th line people. I had to pay a lot of attention at the mental level because I've got a 3rd line mind. And it's in direct resonance to missing all the detail and blowing things. You saw that the other day. When I teach, I rarely make a mistake. Because I'm not in charge of it, so it's pretty innocent. But 9-3 is always there. So I tell you, there's